Hey guys, BBI here. I want to stop and say thanks for tuning in and checking out whatever the video is about that's about ready to come up next. If you could take a minute and hit subscribe, I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you enjoy what you've seen here, make sure to hit the like button. We'd greatly appreciate your support. Anyhow, guys, all that aside, let's get on with the show. It is a beautiful Sunday, a day of rest, and I'm still out here working, as always. So we're going to kill two birds with one stone. We're going to talk about a major change to the workbench, which I didn't think I needed to do, but I have discovered that I had to do it. And we're going to test a little something here real quick. I'm going to tell you the backstory on both. So the headline to which you all clicked on is why I had to label my watt meters. Now, until this moment in my life, I always thought that if I pointed at something and said, this is what this is, and this is what this is, and this is what this is, people would be able to remember what they were and understand the units of measure to which they're looking at. I was strongly corrected on that the other day. So now here, let's run through the gamut. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got a 1,000 watt slug in PEP, 1,000 watt slug in peak, and a 5 watt slug in reverse back from the bird 10,000 watt dummy load. So let me slow that down. This is a 1,000 watt slug reading forward in PEP. This is a 1,000 watt slug in average or RMS or bird watts, depending on what your particular nomenclature of knowledge is. Now, we both know that average and root mean square are two different things, okay? But in the radio slang jargon, it is a hotly contested topic, and I'm not going to get into which one is right or wrong on what this meter actually represents. Is it average or RMS? Not open for debate. I don't care. Some people have this thing of the third order heating means process or the average potential power of the... All this meter is whatever the element is without a multiplier attached. There is one here, but unless I say so, that is off. And it's an actual bird peak kit that's in this, but it's off. Please note it's Sunday. And my phone has rang all afternoon. I'm closed. Radio's a 24/7 thing here, and my friends are starting to tell me it's showing in the videos, it's showing in my voice. It's getting tiring. And then, of course, a 5 watt slug in reflect. Now, we covered in the video yesterday why we have to have a 5 watt slug in reverse, and it's to help people understand that the load that we're putting it into is actually balanced and taking the signal that we're putting into it. Okay. So here's the backstory. I get invited to join this little group, a group of guys that I'm very familiar with on Pal Talk. I don't normally invest a lot of time or energy into Pal Talk because I'm out here physically working, making this thing happen. But I thought, okay, I'll go in there, I'll see what they want. So I go into this group of gentlemen. There's about 10 of these guys that are sitting in there. And the first thing that I noticed is pretty much everybody in the room is hammered. Absolutely hammered. And they're debating moi. And that's okay, I know that happens. I understand it happens. And what they were debating about was my station and what my station could do. So I cammed up and proceeded to show them, to answer their questions, and then I moved on with my evening. Well, I was standing over here still working, and I was kind of half listening to the room. And I was listening to this one guy. This one gentleman who decided that he would stand up in a group of his peers and speak as an authority. He was staunch, steadfast in his statement that he makes, and this is the statement that he makes. Ready? BBI. I've been watching a lot of his videos. No, I've been tuning in. That man's got some amazing shit going on over there. The only problem I have is he only shows things in peak watts, which is bullshit, and we all know it. Another gentleman stood up in front of a group of his peers. The great drunk debates of 2020 is what was taking place here. So, the gentleman stood up in front of the group of his peers and says, "No, he doesn't. He shows it in average." Well, when two drunk people disagree, obviously there's going to be a fight that ensues. Okay? These two grown-ass men were having a disagreement about the way I show power. So, that made me think. I love how people decide that they're going to make comments and talk from the position of authority, like they're over here doing something, or they've been here, or whatever. Made me think, well, if I go way back and I look, and there's been a total of 8 videos, or maybe 9 videos that are public, to where this exact same setup, this setup right here, was not involved. And at that time, I was still doing my best to demonstrate it to you in any which way you want to look at it. Both of the guys are actually technically wrong. From the standpoint of, I show both, and I always have. Okay? If you want to look at your unit of measure, it's the convenience of having the 3 meters in the row, is your unit of measure. However you want to measure whatever's taking place on the bench. Do you believe in peak power? Do you believe in bird watts? Or do you believe in having reflect and seeing how it affects the other meters? It's all right here. These meters haven't moved since I built this bench 7.5 years ago. And I listened to these two grown-ass drunk men have a debate amongst themselves and themselves alone on if this unit of measure is shown in every video or if this unit of measure is shown in every video. They're both shown. And it dawned on me that even though I say in every video, and it comes out of my mouth with one of the most practiced phrases I have in my brain, this is a 1,000 watt slug in PEP, right here's a 1,000 watt slug in average, and here's a 5 watt slug in reflect, back from the Bird 10,000 watt dummy load. So the reason that I'm labeling my meters, and I scraped the BBI logo off of this one that's been up there since, well, I put that BBI logo on there when I first started my business 10.5 years ago, 11 years ago. I scraped that off because I didn't want people to get confused. It's amazing to me that I have to do this, but it's now very clearly labeled so we can have a little bit more clarity. And maybe this gentleman who I know, I'm going to protect him because I don't want him to be, well, humiliated or demeaned or hurt, have his feelings hurt because I'm making fun of him, because I'm not, or I'm mentioning his name, which his friends in turn will make fun of him. Your statement was not factual, never has it ever been, says the 1,000+ videos that I have backing me up. My friend that was attempting to defend me, it was a good conversation to sit there and chuckle to, but at the end of the day, that meter hasn't changed, this one hasn't changed, nor has this one, nor will they ever. Just saying. Just saying. Don't speak from a point of authority about someone or something unless you actually know what the heck you're talking about. Or at least reserve your statement and present it in such a way that it's like, well, my impression is, or my opinion of, or the way I understand things to be. That'll help you from not getting called out on Front Street and perceived as a moron. Now, I understand all these gentlemen were drinking and probably weren't at their best or in their sharpest ball of behavior. But that motivated me to think maybe there are people out there that are a little confused on what I'm showing them for data. And the whole idea is we have this unit of measure that comes off the back of the amplifier attached to our pickup for our spectrum analyzer, our oscilloscope, in our computer first. There's nothing else attached to that. And it's electrically isolated. Then we have our reflect meter of measurement, our average meter of measurement, and our peak meter of measurement directly out to the dummy load. There is no other way to display this data without having all this stuff either remoted or hooked up to another plate. And the reason I don't like doing that is because this is one giant homogeneous unit and the camera can stay stable. So as you're watching it, you're not getting field perception sick from the camera moving around. So guys, this is why, let this video stand as a permanent reference in YouTuber land, why I have labels on my meters. Unbelievable, but true. Alrighty, let's get this out of the way too. So yesterday, we went out on a little family vacation, a little tour, went out and ran around, and I was with some friends of mine, and we just the night before installed a mobile setup in my friend's wife's Jeep. And they were talking about how they wanted to put a little bit more power in the Jeep. And they said, well, we've got a little 200 watt Palomar. I just started laughing. Backstory. Here's our backstory on this box. Is this friend of mine and his wife, they're both friends. I built a 2x4 or a 4-pill 4 way back. We're talking 5 years ago back. And they ended up stripping the 4-pill out of their truck because we installed it. It was in there for about a month. And then he turned around, he bought himself a brand new truck. When the amp came out, the amp came here. I had a guy call up and offer an absurd amount of money for that amplifier. I called my friend, I asked him if he wanted to sell it. He said yes. So I sold the amp for him. The money for that amplifier has sat here in limbo for 5 years. No joke, literally 5 years. So I've been trying to figure out a way to either repay him or let's get him to come over here and I can have him as a fun project between the two of us, build an amplifier together, and then we could have it for his truck. Well, 5 years has come and gone, okay? And I don't like to have debts hanging out there for that long. Not my thing. Sorry, I got a conscience, you know? So I told myself, man, when I get home, I'm just gonna bang him out a 2-pill real quick. So I took 3 hours last night and I built him a 1x2. Okay, now on top of the install that we did with their Jeep, which has got RG400 coax in it and RG316 and all amp and all fittings, and it is beautiful. And you want to talk about a zero reflect. I've never seen a vehicle have such perfect tune. They've got a Wilson 1000 mid-load on the back of their Jeep, and it literally tuned out to a 1.01 with no fuss. Didn't have to mess with anything, didn't have to add bonds or grounds, and the Jeep's talking like crazy, right? We were running down the interstate. I let 2 or 3, 4 miles get in between the two of us yesterday. No problems. They have a 99V in their Jeep, their Heap, as they call it. And yes, it's one of those Jeep, like kind of Rubicon, SOCOM style of Jeeps, you know, where they're stretched out and a little bit wider. And, you know, they make 75 million module strap-on parts for the inside of the thing. The mounting bracket she's got for her radio is absurd. The mounting bracket they got for their ham equipment's absurd. She's going to be the kind that's got the high lift jack and the freaking 3 exterior gas cans and 14 spotlights. And I can see it. I can see it. But the reason I decided to commit to this is because she is not the kind of person that has to go and change vehicles every year like my friend is. He's got to go buy the newest Dodge, or the latest thing we're talking about now is he wants to get a Freightliner to pull his camper with inside. Okay. I decided between the install and me custom building this for their little Heap, if they're cool with it, we're going to just call it a wash. But I wanted to make a little reference video for them to see what it does. So, needless to say, here's your 1x2 variable power. It's got a remote plug on it. Now, we learned in the 4-pill that we built for his truck, they ran their remote wires, and when they ran it down and out and around the cab and around the passenger rear door, underneath some molding on the floor, up over a body lip mold on the inside, and then up and then around and then through and then over to the center console. So all he had to do was flip a switch, click, turn on the amp. My brain remembers lessons like this because it scared the poop out of me. Their daughter jumped in their Jeep. She put her foot on the floor panel just right. She pressed on it just right. The remote wire that they used shorted because it got pinched, and the remote wire melted down. We've all been there. It's a pain in the ass. We all know what it's like. But the fervor and the energy that his wife conveyed to me and what happened, she's like, if we would have just had a fuse inside the amplifier, if there would have been a fuse. I'm like, none of us use fuses, but okay, so we put a fuse in that amp for her, right? It made her feel better. So in the same breath, I remembered that. Here's your fuse holder. 100% of the energy that goes out of this remote jack goes through this fuse. It is a 2 amp fuse, glass actual 2 amp fuse. It also, the same, and that's the reason this is kind of a little sloppy right here, is because I wanted to change this so the remote switch on the front also went through this fuse. If this fuse blows, there's no way to turn on this amp. Therefore, if the remote is halfway in or out, it will pop the fuse. If the remote wire shorts out for some reason, this switch cannot be bumped, turned on, or cause there to be any other kind of electrical short down chain, thus protecting the heap. That's the reason the fuse holder's in there, guys, is to help protect. My output transformers, my input transformers, what we've got here is a 2290 Toshiba driving 2 HG2879 1608s. And we're going to hit it with the RCI 2950 Workbench amplifier, which is the closest thing I have to their their Galaxy 99V, not the V2, the old school V, the one that's got like 2166 finals in it or 1969. So it's about 35-40 watts at the most. I wanted to provide them with an easy way to get to about the same amount of power as a 667 and a quarter of the footprint that they could easily slide underneath their passenger seat. And we're going to go ahead and pre-equip them with an Anderson clip for quick detach, just in case you need to take it out for some reason. Here's the opposite end that you will hook to the power wires that come from your battery, which will also have a breaker, not a fuse, but a breaker on it that we can all hide up underneath the seat. Now, normally what I have been doing in the past is I've been putting the fans on the outside. Works a little bit better. You pick up a little bit more velocity, allows you to go to a little bit thicker fan that allows you to get more air movement, which allows the thing to be cooler, operate longer, and have a better lifespan to it. This particular situation, we have exactly 4 1/4 inches. Well, this entire cabinet is 4 inches high. If I put a standard grill guard on here, I'm over the 4 1/4 inches, even though, yeah, we could probably technically squeeze it through the carpet. I didn't want to press my luck. I want to make this so they can literally slide it in, take it out as easy as possible. Hence the reason we went with the flat screen. The flat screen does slow down the velocity of air just a wee little bit, not enough to make that big of a difference, especially taking into account I know how much they're going to actually use this. Okay, let me put some screws in it so we can turn it on. So let's start here. It's a good place to start. Now we've got a 100-watt element in our PEP meter. This actually saves me the effort of having to stick my hand out and then try and figure out where my finger's pointed, but 100-watt element in the PEP, 100-watt element in the bird meter position, RMS average, whatever position, and a 5-watt slug in reverse, back from the bird 10,000 watt dummy load. So let's show you what we're doing with the radio drive. 100-watt scale. So we're looking at the bottom scale. Let's go back over here. Okay. Hello. See about 22, 23 watts out of our 2950. So let's go over here. And we're going to look at our pass-through tune. Hello, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Now this is really important. There's no reflect between the dummy load and the radio, so it's not seeing the amplifier, which is good. That means you can spend all day talking through it, and the RF doesn't care if the amp's there or not, and it won't affect your receive signal, none whatsoever. Okay, so now we're going to rail the crap out of this 100-watt slug here for a second as we get up in scale. And I've got to walk around the tripod and back to the meter, then back around the tripod to get to the microphone. So this is going to take a couple seconds. So let's watch our PEP meter and let's watch our average meter. So our 100-watt slugs on both scales are pinned in the corner. And that's from 20 watts worth of input power. So let's go up to 2x. And we'll take this 100-watt slug out of here since we've exhausted our ability to read on a 100-watt element. We're going to put a 1,000-watter in its spot. The same 1,000-watter that's been in there since I got these underneath corporate sponsorship license from Coaxial Dynamics, because I am a staunch believer in them, at least until they went to plastic elements. So now we're on the 200-watt scale of the PEP over here, and a 1,000-watt scale here. So we're seeing well over 200 bird. Average, RMS, whatever term you want to apply to it, your local little nomenclature in your clan of clique of people. Now we're in 5x. So we're reading this middle scale. Quit focusing on my finger. We're reading this middle scale over here. So the 5, 0, the 50, the middle scale, we're going to go look at it. Railed it again. So we've exhausted our ability to be able to meter this on a 100-watt element. Imagine that. So we're going to take our 1,000-watt element, we're going to insert it back in the hole, flip it around, we're going to go to 1x. Now we're on the bottom scale of numbers. Very bottom scale. Okay. So 20 is 200, 40 is 400, 60 is 600, 80 is 800, 100 is 1,000. I'd call that about 525 watts out of a 2-pill with a 1-pill drive in it, which is normal. There's nothing special about that, because what we're going after is normalness. We're not trying to overstretch any parts. Once again, roughly 210 watts worth of average power from the average plain Jane radio driving it. So now I want to show you guys something, and I don't think this gets talked about enough. We're going to disconnect the average Joe Schmo radio, which is what she's got in her heap. And now we're going to upgrade to the derail radio, which is arguably one of the cleanest amps or radios I have on my bench. So we're seeing 220 average, okay, about 510 peak out of the 1x2, getting hit with the 2950. So now we're going to grab the microphone for the derail Cobra 29. Have not touched the amp except to change the coax. Watch what happens on our average meter. We're about 10 watts less on our peak meter, but we're almost double the average power. 1, 2. 1, 2. That's why I pay so much attention to PEP. Just saying. It all depends on what radio you're running into the amplifier, which determines your average watt numbers. That's the truth. We can prove it over and over and over and over and over and over again. The same amount of watts are being produced, not the same amount of energy consumed by all components though. So on that note, guys, I'm gonna run. It's Sunday. I don't want to spend an hour or 3 hours in front of the video editing bay to put this together. I've already got 3 or 4 segments. Point's been proven. Miss H, I hope you enjoy. This has got a good substantial amount of airflow coming out of it. It's fairly quiet, enough to when we put it down underneath your seat in your heap, I don't think it's going to interfere with you and your husband talking back and forth in the cab. So it's quiet. I think it will do the job very adequately. Repaying a debt. Gentlemen, I got to run. See you. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the video on this beautiful Sunday or Monday when you're watching it. We'll see you. Bye-bye.